Why Hollywood is losing. I'm going to try and get through all of the bullet points on this one, which is that Disney, Paramount, Warner Brothers, all of these companies are falling behind greatly. And it seems like nobody is noticing outside of the people who live in this sphere, who work in this sphere. Disney has estimated to have lost about $900 million at the box office just this year. That is absolutely bonkers to me. The Embracer Corporation, which has it's bought up the IP to The Lord of the Rings, paid about $399 million for a property that used to be worth about $2 billion. Warner Brothers Discovery is selling off about $500 million in their motion picture and television music rights. So think like Purple Rain. If anybody likes Purple Rain, the music of all that is getting sold off. And Paramount has been devalued, and they're saying that it could go under in as little as 2 years because they're betting big on streaming, and the streaming market has flattened like a board. Like the streaming market is very, very, like, Disney put all this money into streaming and it's not even in the top two. Disney lost $900 million at the box office, all to end up third in the streaming as far as subscriber counts go.
Well, it's because they attack half of their past catalog and refuse to put it out there. Like, if I'm going to sign up for Disney Plus, I want to see everything Disney, no matter how bad it is. I want to see The Cat from Outer Space. It sucks. And I want to see whatever offensive cartoon that is now deemed burn-worthy on a college campus. And they're like, no, we won't show you that. Well, then don't tell me that you're a comprehensive hub for all of your catalog work. You're not.
The other thing that they point out for this is that what they refuse to do, like, the reason why it's not working for Disney is because they're refusing to license outward. So, like you said, if they're not putting everything on there, if your subscriber count doesn't even bring you into the top two as far as streaming numbers subscribers wise, how would you expect to make money when you're not putting your Marvel shows on Hulu? I mean, they own like 80% of Hulu anyway, but like when you're not selling off licensing out your shows and movies to other sites, how are you going to make money if nobody's coming over to Disney Plus to watch it? Right? You're just taking a bunch of material and letting it burn a hole in your pocket.
Well, let's not pretend that they're not. They have subscribers. It's a weird thing about stock valuation. Let's say, just using raw numbers, Netflix has 1 million subscribers paying $5 a month. It's $5 million. That's $60 million a year. And then it's not like, well, $60 million, that's great. If your overhead is 30, you're netting $30 million in profit. The stock isn't valued on that $30 million profit. The stock is valued on last year you had 1 million subscribers. Do you have 2 million subscribers now? Like, you're still making $1 million a month or $5 million a month, but the stock is valued on the growth, not on the actual revenue. It's very bizarre.
They've got 157 million subscribers.
Sooner or later, you've got everybody who's going to subscribe.
Yeah, and they flattened out.
Well, set aside the woke Disney arguments, which absolutely probably is hitting them as well. But I've always wondered how the streaming. I know as a consumer, when you have everything readily accessible to all the Frozen movies. I mean, God, the merchandise we spend on our kids. I'm sure they make a ton of money off the merchandise, but as far as the movies, I don't have to buy those movies. I don't have to put money into those movies because I'm just paying just the streaming cost. And I wonder how much they actually really lose out on people actually just actually buying the movie.
If you pay $5 a month and your kids watch 3 movies, in 6 months you would have, if you just bought them for $15 a piece, you would have come out on the end. They're coming out better off now because how many times you watch Frozen 15 times, you're paying $5 a month to watch that. But if you bought it for $20 over the course of 4 months, you would have paid for what you got out of your subscription.
I just feel like
damned if you do that. I don't think people give it that much thought.
All these streaming services, I feel like I'm actually getting a good deal because even with Amazon Music or Apple Music,
I'm getting a good deal because I use my friend Todd's password.
Netflix frowns on that now.
If I want to listen to
that one, we pay for.
If I want to listen to my favorite band, I'll listen to their songs. I don't have to buy their albums. I don't have to. I just wonder how much they're losing money because otherwise I would have bought that album.
We got two $20 super chats here from Clint Torres. Says Taylor Swift was also in Amsterdam where she got pushed under a truck.
Oh God, that was a terrible movie too.
It
sucked, and so did the other one, Babylon.
I didn't see Babylon. I saw Amsterdam. I didn't see Babylon.
I like the nudity. I'm down with the nudity in Babylon, but the plot was like, oh my God.
Amsterdam was the one with John David Washington, right?
Yeah, where at the end you're going, that was it?
And Christian Bale?
That was, I don't know if it was, I don't even remember.
It was Christian
Bale.
Bale.
There's a lot of famous people in it, and it was just
art house. It's vanity projects for the directors.
Yeah, they didn't spend a lot. They spent a lot of money on actors and not so much on plot.
Disco Jensen says these companies knew they would lose profit implementing DEI initiatives, but Big Daddy, BlackRock, Blackstone, Vanguard have trillions to burn, forcing a change in a generation. Yeah, like when you
It's about the stock price.
when
and that
you move
impacts
away
stock
from
price.
when you move away from to stakeholder capitalism, away from shareholder capitalism. Yeah, there isn't an incentive to make things that people want.
BlackRock can move stock. Well, you can move stock a little bit. Look what happened with Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch. Look what happened with Target. But those are two specific examples in a sea of potential examples that never came to fruition, whereas BlackRock and a couple of other hedge funds can just go, boom, let's hammer these people. They're not giving you a big enough DEI score. And screw over everybody because the individual is almost powerless against those monsters, except on rare occasion.
But it's not just Disney. We've also got Embracer spending $400 million is nothing for Lord of the Rings anything. When you really think about how amazingly...
How do you monetize that again? The TV shows, the movies, they're all relatively new. You've got to have enough time for turnover to even monetize those again. So I think that the cow has been milked mostly. You've got the print books, but you walk in any used bookstore, there's 5,000 copies used already for $1. So I'm not sure how you recoup that money in the near term. Long term, you can. In 20 years, you can remake those movies.
But you got to be able to hold on to it.
Yeah, but in 20 years, you can remake those movies. Maybe in 10 years, you can remake those movies. But you can't remake them now because not only did they get made, they won Oscars and they were wildly popular. So like the people alive now have those movies already. They're not itching for another version.
So it says, they said that we have the rights solely to the Fellowship of the Ring, the Two Towers, the Return of the King, and the Appendices, the Hobbit, and what we do with the rights to Silmarillion, Unfinished Tales, the History of Middle-earth, and or other books. So it's books. Like, I don't know how much is there going to make
Maybe
back
you
in
can
those.
take the world and try and make it a cinematic universe. And
Don't do it.
Hey,
Even I don't want them to do
they're
that.
They're going to do it because they've got to try and find a way to recoup $500 million.
And that's like Amazon pays $250 million for the rights to the Rings of Power and make a show that capped out at episode 2 and dropped off indefinitely. Like the viewership went down and down and down, and then they went on the fans are racist marketing tour, which never seems to work, shockingly enough. I don't know what they do with it, but then you see Warner Brothers, all these companies are selling off assets. All of these companies are having layoffs, mass layoffs in some respects when it comes to Warner Brothers, which was looking to cut $7 billion worth of debt. Disney looking to cut at least that much in debt. 7 rounds of layoffs. Thank you. It's never like when you're in the lull. It's always like right when you're making a point.
Right before you make the point. The crescendo is coming, and then the needle is ripped off the record.
And then you're like, but what was my point? But the point is for this is that
I think we just need more Vin Diesel.
yes,
They
see?
just Paramount, Warner
No
Brothers.
way.
Yes.
You can't really make Maverick 2 because Maverick is going to be a once in a lifetime movie. They won't be able to recapture that magic in Top Gun. I don't think. I don't think the third
what
one.
do you do now?
It's-
He's
I
suddenly
love
a couple years later. He's back on the outs again.
Yeah.
Like, how many times can you be on the outs? Like, how many times do I have to save your ass?
I like
before,
the
all
idea
right, enough?
of him taking over Space Force. Just turn that into
great.
like let him be the head of Space Force, but then Netflix already made a Space Force series with Steve Carell.
mind it. It's pretty good.
Maverick, Fast and Furious crossover.
See,
let's
no,
do
it's got to be Fast and the Furious
in the Lord of the Rings world. So it can
No.
recoup
It's
some
got
of
to be
that
Fast and
money.
Furious and Transformers.
I hate
That's
this like
Okay.
crossover mania. Like everything should stay in its own lane. I'm tired of this.
Hey, you get Michael Bay to direct. 90% of the budget is in explosives. The other half is in small bikinis, and it's a winner. Box office gold. AI right now is lighting up.
Where is Hollywood right now? They're like, call this guy.
I'm making a note for that for later so that I can make that movie. See, I'm also an unapologetic Michael Bay defender because I love the first 3 Transformers movies because that was, as I point out, the image of Shia LaBeouf making out with Megan Fox on a car while Optimus Prime speaks optimistically about the human condition is when America peaked in 2007 and it's been nothing but downhill since
That was
then.
a beautiful
it was
moment.
when Megan Fox was checking the oil.
Yes.
That's it. It didn't have anything to do with Shia LaBeouf.
No, see, he's the rare example. Hollywood now loves the panicky male lead. It's all the guys
The
who
neurotic
need to be,
guy.
Yeah, it's like
Everybody's David Schwimmer from Friends.
Exactly.
Just spit it out. Write it down.
or
dude,
Jeff
all right?
Goldblum.
I'd choke the guy out and tell him to write it down. I'd put a gag on him and say, you can't talk.
It's Jeff Goldblum too. from all his
True,
roles.
but he's not as neurotic about it. He's more scientific.
But all of those, Shia LaBeouf is the rare example where that actually worked. Everything since then has been very annoying, but in that one, it still worked because in the real world, you don't really have a chance against a bunch of alien robots. So at least him running around kind of made sense. I love it. And I also love that. Also, when we were watching the new one, I was trying to figure out why I didn't like the new Transformers movie. And I was like, there's no military propaganda. I miss the military propaganda. Like, that's what I loved about the Michael Bay ones. Lots of
Part
rah,
of the
rah,
American
rah.
theater heritage.
Yes, lots of rah, rah, rah American patriotism in international CIA world building.
And Taye Diggs and Josh Duhamel or whatever the hell her name
Josh
is.
Josh Duhamel.
Whatever.
No, that was Tyrese. That's Fast and
Tyrese,
Furious.
whatever.
Yeah. Taye Diggs is awesome, though. He's actually a good actor. In fact, I think you're insulting Taye Diggs by comparing him to Tyrese.
Tyrese has probably got bigger box office numbers.
Yes. Well, Taye Diggs is more of like he's a TV guy now, more than he is.
He follows me on Twitter, and I
Really?
don't know why.
That's amazing.
Right.
You know, I
Psyched.
discovered that Vanilla Ice and John Cena follow me on Twitter. I discovered that this morning. They follow me on Twitter. Norm Macdonald followed me on Twitter.
That is amazing.
I was like, I
That's
should
cool.
quit. I should just quit.
I know.
That
I'm done.
It's weird.
That was that was the last time Saturday Night Live was actually funny. Was when
True.
he did the Weekend Update, right? Like that's amazing that Taye Diggs, because Taye Diggs is like one of those people like you don't really hear much from him other than like he does. He did a show called Murder in the First in like 2014 with Kathleen Robinson that was pretty good. But the whole time you're watching it, you're like, you are better than TNT television. But yeah, I don't know. For these companies, like, does the stuff with music rights surprise you? Because music rights are still big business.
Music. I'm surprised that it was so little money.
Yeah.
Because like Bruce Springsteen got like $400 million for his catalog, and he's the most overrated person in the history of music. Sting got $300 million for his catalog, and if you can get me Purple Rain and all the other soundtracks, and there's some great stuff on those soundtracks. I don't know the details. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just licensed the rights and didn't own a lot of them. But it seems like that's a low ball for, especially the Beatles catalog is $1 billion.
Well, this is specifically related to movies and television,
Right,
so
but I don't know if it's like the theme songs and scores, or if it's Purple Rain because that music was written for the screen.
So they mention here, it says, while it's unclear exactly which assets are on the table, one source says the rights to slightly less than half of the catalog, with a price tag of $500 million, are likely to go to a major label, with Sony said to be in the lead. The catalog is believed to include music from films such as Purple Rain, Evita, Sweeney Todd, Rent, and several Batman movies. Ooh, that means they can get the R. Kelly song.
We can get the Seal
Gotham
song too.
Yeah, the Seal.
How fun.
But if
R.
it's
Kelly.
Evita, doesn't Andrew Lloyd Webber own that? Like,
Yeah.
they came to him. He didn't write it for a movie. They came to him and licensed it. I don't understand.
They don't like that movie now either because they don't like Madonna.
Maybe it's just those particular versions that you own the royalties from, because I don't think that Andrew Lloyd Webber's given up the publishing
But I think they're just like all
to
these.
make Evita.
All of these companies, whether it's Warner Brothers, whether it's Disney, they're all selling off assets. They're all canceling projects and laying people off, and the writers are over here like, we're striking.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, nobody likes you guys.
Well, corporations don't really have an interest in, necessarily what as long as the product's making the money, but at the end of the day, it's about bonuses and about bottom line for the executives. And so when they are able to clean the balance sheet with, when you, at the end of the year, when you want your bonus, and you get rid of a few people, wow, look, we got more money. So I tend to find that, in the corporate world, no matter what industry it is, they're constantly looking for ways to cut. And so this seems like I tend to find corporate world is things are moving so rapidly, whether it's in the media world or in entertainment, as far as how users use what they do, whether it's streaming or whether it's YouTube or whether it's online, and sometimes these corporations can't even wrap their head around why they're losing money. They just are like, okay, this part of the balance sheet, we're losing money, so let's just cut it, instead of trying to think outside the box of how do we optimize what we have instead of slashing all these people. So I think some of it might just be they're behind the curve in figuring out how to
Slashing
make
people
money.
works. If you're just
It
trying
does,
to change the
but-
numbers, slashing people works. Everything else is a risk.
Yeah.
And people in corporate jobs don't want to take the risks.
And then you have creatives fighting with corporate people who
Yeah.
don't really understand either side. Like the corporate people don't understand the creatives, and the creatives definitely don't understand
Yeah.
the corporate people. Like one of the things that I find interesting is like the best, like a lot of the actors that end up staying relevant are the ones that end up going into producing as well, because they have to learn the business side of the industry as well, and they understand like why certain things are successful, so they know where to put their money, where to put their time and effort. The Rock is a good example of that. Even though he hasn't really been a box office success lately, he's still one of the highest paid actors in the industry because he's involved in so many aspects of the business now. Mel Gibson is like that too, right? Like Mel Gibson has invested so much money into Hollywood that they still like, even though they
he
hate
invested
him,
money into his own movies that made money. It's
but
not
he's-
Hollywood.
But he, it's like whenever he has a new movie coming out, all the sites that write articles all year round about how they hate him still end up having to write a good article because they end up.
He makes decent movies or good. Like the worst movies are still pretty okay.
Yeah.
If it's just as a movie, but if you just sit there, arms folded, going, he said one thing mean to a female police officer, and it doesn't matter what's up on the screen. That's sadly what. Speaking of criticism, that's what criticism has become, is they critique the ideas behind a movie or the people in the movies rather than the movie itself. And you just, like a comedy, if it's funny, it's wrong because they're laughing at the wrong. You're punching
shouldn't
down. You're
find
doing
this,
this, you're doing that, you're doing the other thing. And meanwhile, normal people are sitting there going, that's what me and my friends talk like. That's how we are. There's a disconnect between the critic and the audience and the creators and the audience.
Jennifer Lawrence just did an interview because she's promoting her new movie that's coming out, which is a comedy, talking about it's very hard to make a comedy in an era where everyone's offended by everything. And then her co-star on the movie is like, yeah, we had to really figure out how we were going to make a comedy because eventually we realized back in the day that people realized that there's really some things you shouldn't joke about. I'm like, well, if you put a cap
That's right.
on anything, you put a cap on everything because everything's offensive to someone. So no matter how benign your joke is, somebody will come along and tell you
Well, no, it matters who you offend.
offensive.
There are certain people you can't offend. There is a food pyramid slide rule of who you can offend on the left.
The movie she has coming out is about a socially awkward 18-year-old whose parents pay for like a girl to fall in love with him, who's much older. So that's right in line with what Hollywood finds to be okay. So it's kind of funny because she's like, yeah, I really wanted to do comedy. I'm like, I don't really think of her as a comedic person.
No.
But
She seems kind of joyless.
yeah, well, she was the first action star of all time, a female action star of all time. Didn't you see that? She said she was the first female action star. They weren't really doing that before
Ever.
Hunger Games.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's almost
Yeah.
like
She
Alien
made that
didn't-
genre open for women. She shattered
Yes.
that glass ceiling.
Imagine like
God.
you're Linda Hamilton and you're walking by as she says that, and she's like, seriously?
Charlize Theron,
I know. Tomb Raider. Yeah.
Demi Moore.
Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
They did not exist so Jennifer Lawrence could run.
Yes.
I love how nothing happened before you were born kind of people. So
yeah.
Yeah, history starts anew every
But
day.
these are the people that are supposed to be students of the game, right? That always
Yeah.
like. I love it when you ask actors their favorite movie because it's always pretentious. Like that's my favorite part of it. It's like, oh yes, and it's
I
like,
loved Metropolis. It was such a great movie.
Fellini is wonderful.
Yes.
So, we'll see what happens with these companies. We're going to continue to follow it because a lot of the times when we talk about these things, it feels like nothing changes. They lose they lose billions of dollars, nothing changes. Movie bombs at the box office, nothing changes. But the changes happen incrementally, and it's never so cut and dry and linear as you expect it to be. It's not like we're going to one day watch Bob Iger being marched out of Disney headquarters with his like box of stuff. But seeing little things happen, little by little, Hollywood may have to change. I just don't know if it'll ever matter because, like you said, as long as these companies are propped up by companies like Vanguard, companies like BlackRock, I don't see change coming anytime soon.
Look at the Academy. The Academy is supposed to safeguard the integrity and the industry just itself. It's supposed to champion the industry. And now they're saying you got to have a certain percentage of people on the crew. And like any movie that is historically accurate that is, say, Revolutionary War, Civil War, World War II, is Saving Private Ryan would be ineligible for any award simply
Godfather.
because of the cast. Yeah, the Godfather. Forget it. Can't do it.
Yeah, and they also, it seems like the film industry is also making it harder for the production crews to actually make films in a way to be financially efficient. In that, if you notice Netflix, I don't know if you saw, I guess it was 2 months ago, Netflix was looking to, they now have these sustainability experts that are on in
Such
the
a
crew.
racket.
And how did I want to get a degree in that, sustainability. And so they actually advise crews on how to properly, not use too much CO2.
Oh, they were doing that in the Lord of the Rings set for Amazon.
And so now across the board, they have a sustainability officer in Netflix who actually has somebody who is there at all the crew meetings and, all the, to try to make sure they find workarounds so that so they're not creating too much CO2. So they're telling crews that, imagine if you're a crew member, you have all this equipment, and let's say you're filming in Italy. Well, they want people to do public transit instead of getting in a car or a van where you have all this expensive equipment. Oh, I'm going to go get on public transit or ride a bike to the film set. It just all the
major
ideas.
has happened in public transit recently.
I know.
Very
that
safe.
might be a cause for concern.
And to think otherwise is just a classist.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.